Good morning, guys. So, today I wanted to talk about habits and how they have the power to either help or harm you. So, a habit, in simple terms, is just a automatic programming. So, it's something you've done enough times that it's become thoughtless. That typically, when a real habit is formed, you don't think about it anymore. It's just almost a program that runs, and it does. And so this can either be beneficial in terms of habits we intentionally create, or harmful in terms of habits we've unintentionally created. And understanding how to both form habits and break habits will help you essentially create the life you want. I was thinking about a couple examples. So one example of a bad habit per se, or a disempowering habit, one that I know I have, which is that when I get stressed or I label my feelings of like overwhelm, often I will want to eat something because I've through conditioning, probably over many years, and I think a lot of people have this similar one, is we eat to self soothe because it kind of is a distraction. It takes away from whatever it is we're feeling, and thus we've linked stress to wanting food. And so anytime you get stressed, you want to eat. I know this is a habit I've struggled with, got me a lot of trouble in the past. Slowly working at being better and tearing down that habit. But I think many of us, if it's not food, typically we have some sort of response to stress, some sort of self soothing or some sort of distraction, and because we've done it so much in response to that stress, we've created a habit around it, and that habit might not be beneficial. But what's great is we can reprogram that. So, in creating a habit, we can take the discipline to be intentional that every time we have that response, that stress response in this case, we intentionally do a new action, and we can train ourselves to have that habit. So, a good example, one that I don't necessarily do often, but could if I wanted to, with this stress response example, is anytime I feel that level of stress, especially if I start feeling hungry or desiring food, I've clearly got to that threshold, that trigger point. Instead of eating something, I could go for a walk. And that, even if it's just like a 5-minute walk, that walk will likely allow me to come down a little bit, process what's going on, and essentially not solve the problem, but enlighten it a little bit and give some amount of relief. And if I did that often enough, that if I constantly was checking and intentional that when I hit that point, instead of going for food, I went for a walk, I could get to the point where I would crave walking, actually. Is you would program your mind that when I got stressed, I would just, oh, I need to go for a walk. So that's one. The reason I'm thinking about this topic in particular is because a couple months ago I really dove into a new morning routine, and even a couple, maybe a week and a half now, it hasn't been terribly long, fostering a new habit and being really intentional about creating it, and I'm already seeing the effects of the habitual automatic nature where it's becoming easier and easier. So for a while I was already doing 4:30 a.m. wake up, but I wanted to get up a little bit earlier. Actually, to be fair, I went from 4:30 to 5. I was doing 5, so I was doing 4:30 for a while. I was doing 5 a.m. for a little bit, but then wanted an extra hour again in the mornings to focus on something important to me, which is actually giving myself an hour for DJing. Even though I'm not DJing, it's an hour dedicated to taking steps towards the direction I'm headed. So, a little brief, it's been messaging DJs, it's been watching YouTube videos, it's been looking up equipment, that kind of stuff. So, I have a purpose and a why to waking up earlier, but it's still difficult. Not gonna lie, there's a bit of a difference. At least I noticed from 4 to 5, and so one of the things I wanted to implement to get me started, so that I was even more aware and conscious and ready to go for my morning routine, is the first thing I do is have a cold shower, and this is a morning routine or a habit I've never really done. I've done a lot of cold showers. I've tried to do them in the mornings before consistently. Never did, cause that initial, before you get in the cold, that's the biggest roadblock. That's the biggest mental roadblock. And so I just had to push through that for the first couple of days. And now I don't debate anymore, which is awesome. So I'm already getting to that point of that automatic nature where it's like, I turn the water on, I turn it cold, stand there for like a minute or two, not debating, almost actually just preparing. It's like, now I know I'm going in because I've programmed it enough. I'm just kind of getting myself ready, because it's always that initial shock, but that's exactly what I'm looking for. Because once the shock, then the cold, then I feel awake, and then it's good. Yeah, even so, I've been developing that, and then even the waking up, I've struggled before with sleeping through my alarm, turning it off, not getting up. And so even building the automatic habit, because I've done it a lot now, again, especially recently, which is that when the alarm goes off, I actually get up, grab the phone, leave the bedroom. And just that simple act of building that habit, especially because often waking up and some of these first things in the morning, you're not fully on. And so I'm not making logical decisions. So of course the sleepy me wants to sleep more, but the conscious, intentional me who decided what I want to do in the morning, what time I want to wake up, doesn't. And so setting up these little automatic programs to kind of get the human machine going, before I'm even at full capacity to make rational decisions. And so this is the power of habits, is that we can kind of create these automatic programs that actually serve us, and we can intentionally deconstruct and remove all those automatic programming that isn't serving us. And so it's important to reflect and actually try to find in our day, what we've created unintentionally that is working for us, and B, what's we've created unintentionally that's not working for us. And then to start figuring out, okay, how do I start deprogramming this? The easiest way to deprogram a habit is to substitute. So I gave you the example of, it's hard to have the stress response and have no response. It's much easier to add a new solution and to reprogram a new substitute, especially if it's a good one. It's like, that's okay to have that, stress trigger to then want to do something to lower that stress level. That's actually beneficial. We just need to choose better responses to it. And then creating new habits to help map you to what you want to do. And even waking up, whatever time it is, but actually getting out of bed when your alarm goes off, that's a habit. And you can train yourself so that when your alarm goes off, you actually get up. Speaking as someone who's like, in teenager years used to sleep through many alarms, many. And then even as I got into this whole waking up early morning routine thing, there's been periods where I trained myself to again sleep through my alarms. And like it's weird because it's like the nothing has changed in terms of the technology or the method, where I've had periods with the same phone, similar alarms, where I would sleep through them, and now, again, same phone, same alarm, but I actually wake up quite quickly as to when it's going off. And again, it's about programming yourself. So every morning that I wake up, I'm constantly reinforcing this. And for me, it's like once you do these things months and then even years, you can really hardwire those, especially if they're, again, something you intentionally want to hardwire. So yeah, I will leave it at that for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.